Brought to you by Penguin. Homecoming Girls, written by Val Wood, read by Anne Dover. A child's life is like a piece of paper on which every person leaves a mark. Chinese proverb. Prologue. In the mid-19th century, there had been great poverty and distress in the port town of Hull. Cholera, typhus, and malnutrition killed off many inhabitants. Opium addiction was rife, and there were mutterings from the abandoned poor who considered that they suffered much injustice at the hands of the rich and more fortunate. Those amongst them who concluded that they needed to eat and work in order to stay alive and keep a roof over their heads eventually gave up complaining when hunger and apathy sapped their energy. In those days, 2 young women on the brink of starvation, in a final desperate act, took control of their own lives. One, normally quiet and reserved, but with a yet undiscovered inner core of steel, became a beacon of hope as she railed against oppression and inequality and spoke up for the rights of herself and others like her, whilst the other, hungry and deprived, succumbed to the lure of a life of comparative ease and became the mistress of a rich and married philanderer. The consequences of these naive young women's actions were to stretch out for 20 years or more, touching the lives of many, and even reaching the shores of America, which for some wasn't quite the land of opportunity, the El Dorado it was meant to be. Into this new world, a child of mixed parentage was born. Of her Chinese mother, nothing was known, except that she too had escaped from oppression, and about her father there were many questions but few answers. It was to the old town of Hull that the child was returned. There were many who were curious about her, and wondered about her ancestry. Residents in the port town were used to foreign sailors, brown and weathered, speaking languages that they couldn't understand, whose only English words were girls or room. Seamen might occasionally come across a Chinese cook, but rarely did people of that nationality arrive in this eastern harbour. Sometimes women were smuggled off the ships, young, pretty women, their faces pale with fear, who, speaking with Germanic or Scandinavian accents, begged to be taken back home. But never young women like her. Rich, beautiful, and with a cool, enigmatic glance which defied interrogation. Oriental, the gentry whispered as they speculated. They knew her father, of course, or once did, for he was long dead. The Newmarch family was well known in the town, not only for their wealth, but for their industry and charity, and she was part of it. Her family and close friends knew what little there was to be known, but for the rest, she was shrouded in a cloak of mystery and intrigue, and many stories were told about her. Over the years, the tales faded into obscurity as she was accepted as part of the community, until strangers arrived and asked about her, and then they began again, increasing in exaggeration and veiled insinuation. Chapter 1. March 1874. Jewel watched her cousins from across the floor of the state ballroom in the Royal Station Hotel. Elizabeth, married for only an hour, golden-haired, elated and vivacious beside her new husband. On her other side, her twin Clara, almost but not quite her double, palely serene, but as Jewel knew well, anxious and fearful at the thought of having lost the sister who for 20 years had been an inseparable part of her life. Jewel swept towards them, her rose-coloured watered silk gown rustling, and the feathers in her headdress gently tossing and quivering. She and Clara had been Elizabeth's attendants, and as they...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?